All right, well, we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Ellen Burkhart, and I'm the Director for Student and Family Connections here at UCCS, and I'm so excited that you all could join us tonight. It's a really busy time of year as we just opened up summer registration, so if you have any students interested in summer registration, this is a good time to get some answers about that and ask those questions, but also talk about fall registration, which opens up here in just a couple of weeks as well. Tonight, I have one of my favorite colleagues that I've been working with for a number of years, Valerie McClinton. She is the Assistant Director for Academic Advising, and she's going to run us through a little bit of a presentation tonight, hopefully able to answer a lot of your questions. We do have the chat function disabled, but that does not mean that you're not able to ask questions. At the top of your screen, there should be a Q&A button. If you have a question, please submit your question through the Q&A. I'll be working behind the scenes trying to answer what questions I can, or if we're getting some frequently asked questions after the presentation, I'll ask Valerie those questions so that we can try to get those answered for you. If for some reason we're not able to answer your question tonight, no worries. You can email my office at family@uccs.edu, and we can work together with Valerie and her team to get those questions answered for you. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and turn my camera off and turn this over to Valerie. Thanks, Valerie.
Thanks for the warm welcome, Ellen. I am excited to be here with you this evening and am looking forward to sharing with you a little bit about advising at UCCS and some of the ways that you might be able to support your student as they are thinking about the upcoming semesters. I've done my best to kind of anticipate some questions. I've got some important resources, some helpful tools to share with you, but I definitely want to make sure that we've got time for questions. And if they come up along the way, please do feel free to put those in, as Ellen mentioned, so that we can address them rather than having to kind of delay. I'm hopeful that technology will cooperate with me this evening, but you never can tell. So I ask for your patience if I do have any little wonkinesses. So I'm going to try to share my screen. And so as Ellen mentioned, my name is Valerie McClinton. I've actually been at UCCS in advising for almost 13 years. My current 8th grader and 13-year-old was not yet walking when I started working here. So he's kind of my measuring stick. I've worked in academic advising and student support for lots and lots of years. It's really my passion. And so I'm excited to share with you a little bit about our model and some of the resources that we are able to support your students with. At UCCS, academic advising is centralized. What that means is all undergraduates have an advisor who are assigned to them based on their intended major and their last name. And in an ideal scenario where we retain our staff and a student doesn't change their major dramatically, there's the potential for your student to work with that same individual from orientation to graduation. And here we can see our full staff, the areas that they are responsible for, and your student's advisor assignment will be posted in their student portal as well as in their support network platform. So wanted to mention that as a resource to you. We'll actually be coming back to this screen in a little bit. In addition to your student having an assigned advisor, there is a layer of support available to them through our office generally. So our front desk is staffed on the 2nd floor of Main Hall, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So a student could call or come by and some member of our team would be available to assist them. In some cases, there may be some general questions, resources we could share. If not, we can certainly help them to get connected with their assigned advisor and kind of have a warm handoff there so that we can get their needs met. We do a lot of work via email. So a student can email their advisor directly, or they can use the support network to schedule an appointment. In addition to their current assigned advisor, students actually have access to our full range of experts. So if a student who's working currently with me in a social science or criminal justice area is considering a major in accounting, they can connect with one of our business advisors to get those specific questions answered. And so our front desk staff can assist them in scheduling that appointment. I wanted to kind of share with you a framework that we share with students, especially our brand new students, about the fact that academic planning is really a process and it evolves over time. So we recognize that throughout a student's career, what they need and where their energy and focus is directed will vary. So in our first year, we're working to kind of help students get acclimated. In our second year, we are helping them to kind of dig in and explore and make some decisions about how they want to move forward. In a third year, helping them really engage and make the most of their time so that in their senior year, they can be preparing to transition out. Our mission in this office is to help, I can't even think of it on the top of my head now, to support students as they navigate college. And we know that students have different things to navigate, different ways they're going to choose to move through the experience. But the second photo here gives us a sense of some of the high impact aspects of a college experience that can really help a student to feel connected, supported, and engaged. And so we're encouraging students to think about where they might find meaning, whether it's inside of class or outside of class. And so I'll share that document with Ellen so she can relay it on to you all as well. In addition to thinking about advising as a process, there are several really important tools that we teach students how to use. We refer back to extensively, in our advising appointments, and I wanted to share those with you as well. So the first resource is again, on our advising webpage. To find that advising webpage, if you're on our homepage, you can navigate to links and tools, and we're the first option here under quick links. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Hopefully that makes it a little less wonky. Under the degrees and programs section, you'll find the drop-down menu for majors and minors, and there we'll see all of the colleges of the university. Within each college, we'll see each academic department and the majors that they offer. So if we go into our anthropology advising guide, I apologize. On the first page, we will see some general academic information. How many credit hours a student's responsible for accumulating, a GPA requirement, and then their major is unpacked. In addition to seeing that a student needs 36 or 7 hours in anthropology with grades of C or better, we see the details of what will comprise those 36 to 37 credit hours. When a course is listed by number, as in the case right here with anthropology 3970 and 4980, we know that that's a specific course that a student in this major must complete. Those are kind of the hard and fast components of the degree plan. In this case, the rest of the major has some element of choice. And so a student will select 3 of the 4 introductory courses and will select 1 methods course, 1 integrative course. So this is a nice kind of zoomed out overview of what a major will look like. On the second page, we start off with a skeletal outline of general education requirements. And the reason this is pretty brief is that an additional tool that we'll look at in just a moment provides us a lot of the details as to what can apply in a particular area. We see the categories of general education, the number of courses or credit hours required, and I like to call this section out as well, the general elective section. A general elective is a course that is of the student's choosing. There's not a specific category or type of course that a student must plan in that area. So with almost 50 credit hours of general elective, a student has great opportunities to really tailor their program of study, whether that would be through a double major, a minor, provides opportunities for things like study abroad and internships. And so we really like to call out the potential that students have within those electives to personalize their degree. The bottom section, I'm imagining it's probably pretty zoomed out again, is a 4-year degree plan. And I like to stress with folks that this is a starting point. It is not a puzzle that only goes together in one way. It is essentially a template that we will build out based upon the courses that a student chooses. So what I mean by that is it is not meaningful, it is not required for a student to complete a course in an Explore Arts category in their first semester. They are required to complete that requirement at some point to earn their degree. So this is something that kind of becomes personalized. There are some big assumptions made here as far as the number of courses a student will take per semester. We can see that summer is not included, but it gives us a way to take that big 120 credit hours and parse it out into more meaningful chunks and help students understand which components of their degree plan they've already completed and what they have left to move forward with. Ellen, do we have any questions about the resources we've hit on so far before I continue on?
There are no questions yet, but that's a good time to remind everyone, if you do have a question, there should be a Q&A button at the top of your screen that you can put your question in so that we can make sure to ask Valerie. I think you're good to go.
Okay, awesome. In addition to the advising guides for majors, they're also available for minors as well. Another tool that we use greatly with students is our degree audit. And the degree audit is a real-time tool that tracks your students' progress towards degree completion. It is actually the tool that we use to confirm when a student is complete with requirements and is eligible to graduate. Your student will access their degree audit through their student portal, and the link we have right here actually provides a nice little how-to video as a refresher for how to find the degree audit and how to make sense of the information there. Since a student has access to the exact requirements that they're being held to, ideally and theoretically, that means we shouldn't have any surprises. And we really want to make sure that students know where they can access that information. One thing I encourage students and support members of their, or supporting family members and members of their support system to know is that, degree audit is just a tool. So if there's something in the degree audit that is a student is not understanding, they feel like something should be applying in a different way, we're missing a course that was transferred in, anything like that, please, please, please encourage them to reach out. In many cases, we can help a student understand what's going on. If there is an issue that needs to be rectified, advisors at UCCS actually have the authority and the access to make those modifications. And so we don't want to assume that it's just a glitch and it'll take care of itself. There's a concern, please encourage your student to reach out so that they can get the information they need or request that a change be made or an update be made. We'll actually walk into a sample degree audit here in a minute, but there are a couple of kind of guiding principles. In degree audit, each section that we see here at the top is a requirement. And by clicking again on the caret at the left, we can unpack that requirement to see what a student must do to fulfill it, which is the screenshot down below. A red X is telling us that the requirement is not yet complete. The ellipsis is reflecting that a requirement is in progress and will be complete based on a current course. And a green check mark is telling us the student has fulfilled the requirement. So that means at graduation, a student should see all of their requirements with green check marks. The last photo that I have here on the bottom right is the bottom section of the degree audit. This is actually kind of similar to a transcript. It's the course history section that captures what a student has completed. This does include transfer credit, whether it's courses that were completed through concurrent enrollment or while they were attending another university. It also lists semester by semester their UCCS courses. So I wanted to point that out to you as well. We definitely encourage students to keep an eye on that if they have some transfer work that hasn't yet posted in their degree. Okay, so I'm going to step out of that and show you how our degree audit looks. What we're seeing here is exactly what your student will see. They won't have to select a student. Their information will be populated, but I'm going to use kind of our general information, our kind of dummy account to log in. So a student's program of study is going to be listed at the top. In this case, because it's a generic one, we are going to select a program of study. This menu to select a different program is actually available to your student. So if they are wanting to explore another major, they can run a what if report to see what does that major entail, where do my courses apply, what would I have left. So I like to mention that. I have two rules about degree audit. The first is whenever you access the system, we want to click to run a new report. And the reason that's very important is that the audit in that moment is essentially taking a snapshot of what is true for that student. So what their current major is, what they've completed, what courses they've added and dropped. So we want them to run a new report whenever they access the system. When a report is run, we can see that it's here in our queue. And the most recent one is at the top. So my second rule is to always use the audit at the top of the list. And that ensures that we're working with the most up-to-date information. In the audit, there will be a section for students' declared major requirements. And so just like in that advising guide, we can open up and we can see what the specifics of an anthropology degree or major will entail. For our general education requirements, we can open a section and we can see that one course is required, and here are the range of options. So when we're looking for that additional information to supplement the advising guide where it just says a category, here in the degree audit is where we can obtain that information. The course history section lives here at the bottom underneath the elective section. In this case, we don't have any credits posted, so there's nothing there. But I wanted to kind of give you a sense of how that looks in kind of its full glory, the layout of all of that. Ellen, any questions about degree audit?
There are no questions right now on degree audit.
Okay, thanks. I just didn't want to skip over them if we could dig in. Okay. Let's go back. Oh, here's that technology I was talking about. Okay, the last, and I need to change my display settings. There we go. The last requirement I wanted to share is the catalog. The catalog is kind of the comprehensive listing of all academic rules, regulations, policies, requirements, all degree programs, and is kind of the archive of courses that have been developed at the university. So it's really the big picture of everything your student can dig into. If we come to the catalog, I zoom out, we can see that just like with our advising page, all of our different degrees are, or colleges, excuse me, are listed. And under programs of study, we can see all of the different undergraduate options. This provides kind of a context of what it means to pursue a particular degree. It includes the specific requirements. It also includes course titles and descriptions. So in that advising guide, when a course is listed by number, it doesn't really provide much information. Here, we can open a course description and see how many credit hours it's worth, get a sense of the description, and see what components of a degree the course will apply to. In addition to particular degree requirements, students can search for courses and can select a department. Here, we find an archive of all of the anthropology courses that have been developed at UCCS. It is not reflective of what is offered currently. That is something that is available through the student portal and the course search. When we open a course description, again, we see title, description, and any prerequisites. Students can also search by keyword. So they can find maybe some supporting coursework in a variety of departments that might be relevant or of interest. So it's definitely a tool I dig into with students of mine who have a lot of electives or who are exploring perhaps some different majors to get a sense of what that might look like. Okay. When we come down to the nuts and bolts of registration, the most helpful resource available or resources available as far as the registration process itself are posted on the registrar's website. And a registrar, it's kind of a funny word, but really the registrar's office is responsible for all of the course delivery, course scheduling, all of our students' academic records. And so it's a resource we refer to a lot. The first thing I'm going to point out is down here in the bottom right-hand corner. This academic calendar section is actually something that your student has access to as well in their student portal. So anytime they log in, they'll have that. When we look at this section, the dates that are presented are pertinent to registration or course enrollment, adding and dropping, deadlines for grades to post, holidays, and things like that. So we can see, as Ellen mentioned, April 1 is when our class search for the fall semester opened. And 2 weeks later is when registration opens. So that gives students some time to look at the details of what's available to them and make some choices. It's really not necessary for the class search to be available for a student to put together an academic plan. Prior to the opening of the schedule and well before registration opens, we can meet with students, and we want to meet with students to talk through how are things going this term, how is that experience going to inform how we approach next semester, what are our priorities for next semester. So we can identify, in many cases, specific courses that a student should explore, even if the schedule's not yet posted. And then once the schedule posts, if they have questions, they can always follow up, but they don't have to wait for that to either do some exploring and planning with us. They also don't need to delay their registration until they've met with an advisor. It's always easier to make modifications to take advantage of students' access to registration versus waiting and then having fewer options. So I definitely think that's important to consider. So on April 1st, in addition to the course search being available, a student's shopping cart was made available. And the shopping cart is kind of the first step of the registration process. This is where students can select a course and save it as something that they are considering for the next semester. Putting a course in your cart is not the same thing as enrolling in a course. Excuse me, that doesn't happen until a student actually claims a seat. A student's enrollment appointment is their first opportunity to register for the next semester. And those enrollment appointments are assigned on a seniority basis. So our first enrollment appointments are assigned to graduate students, then seniors, juniors, and so on. There often is confusion on the part of students that their enrollment appointment is an advisement appointment. And as I mentioned, we hope we've seen your student well before their enrollment appointment rolls around. This is really just when enrollment becomes available to them. Also on the registrar's website under student resources and enrollment and registration, we see the class registration guide. This provides some access to helpful videos, points out some of those terms we've already unpacked, and provides a step-by-step of how to complete adding and dropping. The frequently asked questions section is a helpful resource for some of those things that don't come up all that often, but are often easy to navigate once you have access to a little bit of information. So I like to call that out and encourage you to share that with your student. In the advisor page, academic advising page, and on the registrar's page, there are some how-to videos that provide a refresher on how to navigate the full registration process. So it can be a helpful refresher. While advisors function in the student portal and the degree audit on a daily basis, and we make it look really easy to navigate, our students don't have as much reason to be in there, except for when they're thinking about their academic plans. And so just wanted to call out that they can make use of those. I thought it might be helpful to show you how the course search works and some of the different ways to tailor that process. So my plan is to do that and then talk through some challenges that students may face when they're completing their registration. And then we'll be through kind of the content that I've planned, and we can dig into any questions that you might have. So that's kind of where we're at. So I'm going to go back to our one now. I will be right back. My system is getting ready to time out. Okay. All right. So this is exactly the way a student's course search will look in the student portal. Under term, we can see that a student can actually access what's available for a 3-semester cycle. So if a student's trying to understand when does this class tend to be offered, they can kind of look back at those past semesters to get a sense of what might be going on there. So we're going to select our current semester, and 99.9% of the time, students will be completing courses on through main campus, which means it's a credit-bearing course. We don't have to have a specific course number in mind to have a meaningful course search. You could select a subject, and that's sufficient to get us going. The more filters we utilize, the more tailored our search will be. So I'm going to say I want undergraduate courses, and we do encourage students to utilize the features to reflect only courses that are open and to indicate when a course has a conflict. So from there, we can click search, and we see a listing of all of the anthropology courses that are being offered in the fall semester. Clicking on the caret at the left unpacks that course and provides details about the individual sections that are being taught. And those may vary in terms of meeting day and time, mode of instruction, and duration. So we can see that section number 1 is a class that meets Tuesdays and Thursdays in Centennial Hall 203. Professor Seguin is teaching, and it's a course that meets for the full semester. The status symbol is letting us know that the course is still open, so a student could claim a seat in that. The other symbols here at the top reflect if a course has conflict, is waitlisted, or is currently closed. The other sections that are listed have differing, this next one is a differing date, so it meets on Mondays. And the bottom option is an online asynchronous option. We see that the room is indicated as online and there's no meeting day or time. When the section number includes some letters, it's kind of a clue that there's something different about that particular course. So here the OL tells us it's online. The B, we might be wondering, what does that mean? So if we go into the details of the course, we can see that this is actually what we call a hybrid course. So in addition to meeting on Mondays at 10:50, there's an online component. We see the components of the degree that this particular course would apply to. And again, we see our course description. If we back up just a tad, we can see this class will have 50 students in it. And the enrollment restriction flagged as N or no tells us there's not a prerequisite that is enforced for this course. When there is a prerequisite enforced, let's think about an example. Be a great one. Oh, not in this particular department. Let's show you what it looks like. So enrollment restriction, yes. If we go into the details of that course, we will see that in order for a student to register for this course, they must meet these criteria: having a Psychology 1000 or equivalent course and a math course completed. So being aware of those enrollment restrictions will help a student avoid any registration errors that might be tied to prerequisite courses. If we go back to our course search, I wanted to make mention of the fact that there's an additional menu available where students can refine their search even further. If your student is wanting to exclusively take in-person courses, if they know that they're unavailable after a particular time frame, they can narrow the search to hopefully expedite finding options that would work well for them. Flip our display settings. There we are. share the screen. I'm getting there. All right. Okay. The last piece I wanted to speak to were some of the things that might pose some challenges for your student as they are navigating the registration process. Hopefully, students are aware of these things in advance and so are able to take care of them early on and not have it delay their registration. Holds are posted in a student's portal, and many, not all, will impact registration. A hold might be due to a past due balance, a missing document, maybe a student is not currently in good academic standing. And so if a student sees a hold, they can drill down in their portal to see what the situation is, how they can rectify the hold. And if they're unsure about how to interpret that information, that's a great reason to reach out to our office so that we can help them navigate. Holds do not prevent students from searching for courses or putting them in their enrollment shopping cart, only registration. The pre-registration, goodness, that's a tongue twister. Pre-registration tasks are a set of steps that a student must navigate every semester before they enroll. It's essentially a confirmation of contact information or an opportunity for students to update that. It's also where students review and must agree to their financial obligation agreement. Once they've completed those steps, they can move forward. So that's actually something students can do before their enrollment appointment. And then when that appointment rolls around, then they can move forward and complete registration. We talked a little bit about errors already when we looked in the course search. Most of the errors that we see come up when there's a prerequisite that our registration system cannot verify being complete. So for example, if a student must have completed English Composition 1 to move into English Composition 2, and we haven't yet received their transfer work that shows us their English is complete, they could provide documentation to their advisor. We could confirm completion of that course at another institution and provide a permission number. That permission number essentially serves as a key to unlock the door to that course. So when an advisor provides a permission number, it is not an advisor waiving a prerequisite. It's essentially saying we've confirmed completion of this prerequisite and have verified that a student is indeed eligible to enroll. All courses have a section of the enrollment screen that has a box for a permission number. But the only time that students need to use that is when they're getting an error or when they need to be granted access to a course. The last challenge I'll mention are waitlists. A waitlist is an opportunity for students to queue up in an electronic line when a course is closed. And the way our waitlist system functions is that if you're number 1 on a waitlist and a student drops, you will automatically roll into the seat that becomes available to you. So if a student chooses to waitlist, they need to be really diligent about checking their status on that waitlist. The waitlists are in place until the end of the first week of the semester. So if the semester starts and your student is still waitlisted, they want to connect with the instructor, get started in the course, and determine what their options are for getting in. In many cases, there are alternatives to waitlists, whether it is picking a different section, selecting a different course. So we encourage folks to explore those options. And if they're choosing to waitlist a course, to have an alternative course, kind of a backup plan. All right. I forgot I added one last slide. So schedule changes are the norm, quite honestly. I usually tell students, whether they're brand new or whether they're getting close to graduation, that their that initial registration each semester is their first draft. It's our starting point. And as you get more information, we may choose to make some changes. The registrar's office their website includes helpful deadlines that outline when there are windows of opportunity to add and drop courses. And so, again, depending upon the time frame of a course, those deadlines will vary. Generally, for a full semester course, a student can add a course through their portal until the end of the first week. So if they meet the prerequisites and it's open, they can add. What that means is if a student goes to a class or gets started with a class and it just doesn't feel like the best fit, we want to connect with them sooner rather than later, while there's still opportunity to add a class without having to go through any additional administrative steps. So the first week is really prime time for students to be kind of massaging that schedule, taking that additional information they've gained from the instructor, from the syllabus, and making some decisions about what the best fit is. Students can add after the first week. It just becomes a little bit more complex. And after they've missed the first week, that can pose a real challenge as far as being able to feel confident about having a solid foundation to move forward. The other deadline that I want to call out here is census date. Census date is the last day to drop a course to receive a refund and to earn no grade. So if a student drops a course up to census date, it is not on their transcript. It does not show as a course they were enrolled in. So really our goal is for students to be settled into their schedule for the term by census date if possible. After census date, if a student drops a course, they will receive no refund and a grade of W will be posted, which means I withdrew. I choose not to finish the course. There are opportunities to add after census date, but again, there are challenges with that as far as students being able to be successful in a course. And that actually brings me to my final slide. I appreciate your patience as I fumbled with the technology. I actually got back from vacation just on Monday, so I'm getting my work feet back. But I'm happy to take any questions y'all might have that I or Ellen could assist you with.
And again, if you have any questions, please go ahead and put them in the Q&A section, which you should be able to find at the top, a little Q&A button at the top of your screen. So the question is, when should we expect to hear about any scholarships that were applied for? That's a financial aid question, so you can certainly email our financial aid office, which is finaidsE@uccs.edu. Similar to schools across the nation, if it's a need-based scholarship, we're still waiting for some of that FAFSA information to come in. So our financial aid office is processing as quickly as we can, but I also know that some of our reviews have not happened for scholarships because we are waiting for that FAFSA information to come. There was one, just clarification, Valerie, so I'll read the question, and if you want to clarify that. The question was, did I understand correctly that the enrollment appointment that we might have scheduled is not the same as an advising appointment?
That's a good question. For incoming students who are going through new student orientation, registration will occur at that same time. So your new student will be meeting with an orientation staff member who will be delivering course recommendations that have been prepared by that student's assigned advisor. They will also be learning about how to navigate the different platforms and complete the registration process. So if your student is brand new to the university for this summer or fall, then yes, they will register as part of orientation. Moving forward, students will schedule an advising appointment through the support network platform. That's the way in which they can see our calendar and pick out a time frame that works well for us to meet. Their portal will list their enrollment appointment, which is that first opportunity to register for next semester courses. Hopefully that helps to clarify.
Yeah, I think that did. What is the response time a student can expect from their advisor?
That's a great question. We strive really hard to reply to student emails within 2 business days. However, there are definitely times of the year when that is a challenge. And we're getting to that point with registration opening. So if a student has reached out via email, it's been more than 2 days, they could certainly follow up with their advisor again. They also could reach out with our front desk staff to see if they might be able to gather some of the information they're needing in that way. The other thing that I mentioned a little bit is that students have access to advisors beyond their assigned advisor. So for example, let's say I am going on family medical leave. My colleagues, the team that works with the same majors, are available to the students on my caseload. And we work really hard to communicate with our caseloads about how they can get help when there will be an extended absence. So there's multiple ways to connect. And sometimes it's just a matter of an advisor digging out of a really full inbox, but we're doing our best.
Thank you. Can you talk a little bit about when freshmen typically register and how those enrollment appointments get selected? Like, why do some students get to enroll sooner than others?
Sure. So as I mentioned, enrollment appointments are assigned on a seniority basis. So the closer you are to graduation, or the fewer number of requirements you have to navigate, the earlier you'll register. So our seniors will have access to registration on the 3rd day. The first couple days are for graduate students or students who've been granted priority access to registration based on being part of a particular population. So perhaps they're student athletes, they're honor students, some of our military and veteran students, some of our students who are registered with our Disability Services Office may be granted priority registration. If you fall into one of those categories, but you don't have priority registration, that's something that you can explore with that particular office. So it's definitely something you can ask about. Our first year students have access. I'm trying to think about the way to approach this. If you have an incoming student, when registration opens for the general campus is when orientation appointments are beginning. So our incoming first year students will actually have access to register prior to other students who are already here, depending on when their orientation appointment is. But generally, if registration for fall opens on April 15th, our first year students will have access probably by the end of the following week.
I have a couple of questions about transcripts, and I know if you can't answer them, of course, we can point them in a different direction as well. The first one is, when do students go over their high school transcripts to see what coursework will transfer to UCCS?
That's a great question. What I like to stress about concurrent enrollment is that the college credit that a student is awarded is coming from the college, university, or community college. So we must actually receive an official transcript from that institution for credit to be post-secure. Their high school transcript may or may not, depending upon the district, provide us with clues to indicate when a concurrent enrollment course is being taken. So as part of orientation preparations, we're reviewing a student's high school transcript. We're looking to see if there's college transcripts so that we can take that into consideration when making course recommendations. If I can see that a student has done concurrent enrollment for 2 semesters of college level composition, I will not recommend that they do a composition course in their first semester. So while it won't necessarily be posted in their degree audit until they submit a transcript, we're going to work around that. We require that all of our first year students meet with their advisor at least once during their first 2 semesters. So each of their first 2 semesters. That's a great opportunity for us to say, hey, looks like we were expecting some college coursework. I don't yet see that. Let's get that loose end taken care of. Or let's look at what we're anticipating and figure out how that might apply. So if your student is anticipating college coursework transferring, please ensure that the official transcript from the college or university is submitted once they finish their current coursework, and encourage them to ask questions about how that's going to help them work towards degree completion.
And I think you answered this, but again, just might stress or it may need to be clarified. Is there any value with submitting the transcript for the current semester, or should we wait until it's final?
I come from the school of thought that the more accurate a student's record can be, the safer our planning can be. So I know that it's not always easy or feasible, but I recommend that a student submit an official transcript if they've got any college coursework that's complete. And that way their degree audit will reflect that. We have certainty about what requirements are already complete. That reduces the risk of them duplicating credit that they've already earned. If they don't have an opportunity to submit an official transcript, we can plan and make course recommendations based on the unofficial transcript, but it becomes one of those loose ends that can linger out there. And the longer those loose ends linger, the more chance there is for complications.
Okay. And I have a question that I often see, online in our Mountain Lion Family Facebook group or through email and stuff too. But what role can a parent play in helping their student get ready for classes or get prepared for registration? And the other question that I often get is, do parents attend any advising sessions with their students?
Good question. I think a role that parents can play is reminding students of the resources they have access to, whether that's their advisor, their degree audit, their advising guide, and encouraging them to be involved in that process. Oftentimes when I'm talking with prospective students, I'll get questions like, what does an advisor even mean? What is that? What do you do? And the thing that usually kind of resonates is, in high school, your guidance counselor will say, you're a senior, here's what you take, right? Or here, you need a science, here's what's available for seniors. Our job is to help students understand their requirements, to help them explore the options available to them. But in the end, it's the student that's making the choice. And so if a student is not engaged in that process, if a student is unaware of their options or not making use of their resources to understand their requirements, that can lead to delays, that can lead to taking courses that aren't helpful, that can lead to academic struggles. So encouraging students to take advantage of the resources available to them and get involved in the process. I definitely have some advising appointments where a student will invite a parent to attend. And what I basically remind a student is that this is your information. And so if you're willing to grant access to that information to someone else, I'm happy for them to join that conversation. But in that conversation, my goal is for the student to understand what our priorities are, what our options are, what our tools and resources are. So we really want to try to keep the focus and the interaction driven by the student rather than a member of their support system. Orientation is an opportunity if a student is attending on campus, and there are a variety of different flavors of orientation. There are some opportunities for parents to attend, and there's some different programming and information shared then.
Awesome. Well, I am not seeing any other questions. For those of you who are still hanging on and have other questions, your student, the best way that they can get specific advising questions answered is to email their specific advisor or schedule an appointment with their advisor. If you all have any general questions about advising, you all as parents can email our family at uccs.edu email, and then we'll work with advising to get those answers to you as parents and family. Students can, again, if they are not sure who their advisor is or how to get a hold of their advisor, they can call the front desk. That number is 719-255-3260, or they can email advising@uccs.edu. But again, we do prefer that they work directly with their advisor when possible. So again, thank you, Valerie, for your time tonight. I learned a lot. It's been a while since I've sat through an advising presentation, so this was a good refresher for me. And thank you to all of you that were able to participate tonight and ask such great questions. Have a good evening, and we hope that registration goes well for you and your student.